Recently, a student asked me to demonstrate my whole process if I were to take a song. We can use this Beatles song as an example. Michelle, my belle. And to create a piano arrangement for it, like this one, by ear. Now, my first instinct was to create a chord chart for it. And to do that, I quickly pulled up Logic and Sibelius, which are two software applications I use pretty much anytime I'm transcribing music. So transcribing is when you take a recording and you turn it into sheet music. My student pointed out that we'd been working together for about a year and he'd never seen me use these applications. So I thought, okay, this might be useful. I've done other videos on the ear training part of this process, but I want to show you today the tools that I use. And I use Logic and Sibelius, but this can apply for any DAW and any form of sheet music notation. So we have a 3-step framework here. These are the 3 things that matter to speed up this process. We're going to tempo map the recording into our DAW. Then we're going to create markers in both the DAW and our sheet music for the form of the song, that is the different sections of the song. And then we're going to notate the chord changes to the song. All right, here we go. So we're using Michelle, and I have not played this song before, but obviously I've heard it many, many times. And my first step was just to get the audio into Logic. And I do this if it's a recording that I'm streaming using an application called Blackhole. There are many options for applications to do this with. Basically, I just needed to reroute the audio output of my computer so that it could be an input for this track in Logic. And then I played through the song once and boom, I have the audio here in Logic. That's the sort of thing where it can be a little fussy to get set up the first time, but once you do, anything that you can stream on your computer becomes a piece of audio that you can work with. So I highly recommend finding some way to do that for every musician. Now, once I have the audio in here, I'm going to use a Logic function called beat mapping. And I'm sure there are other versions of this in other DAWs. Logic also has something called smart tempo that can do this, but I prefer beat mapping because you just have a little more control. So I'm going to cut off the front end of this, bring this here to the beginning, and then I'm going to analyze the transients. So Logic has made its guess for where the transients are, like the clear attacks to notes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it where those should be falling in the beats of the tempo grid here in Logic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that seems like that's the first 4 bars. Now, if it's a modern recording that was recorded to click, this process is very quick because you just need to find the BPM and then that works for the whole recording. It might be a little more involved for an older recording like this that I don't think they recorded to click. So I might fast forward a little bit here while I go through this process. Now, as I'm going, actually, I'm going to already be doing step 2, which is anywhere I hear a section, I'll create a marker for it. So it looks like that's a 6-measure section there. Now later I'll go back through and I'll name these sections, verses, or whatever seems appropriate. But for now, I'm just going to create the sections. Okay, what I'm doing here is that I'm just starting to skip through a little bit where it's obvious that the click is basically matching how they're playing the beats. And now that I'm getting a sense for how long these sections are, I can sometimes just skip to where I think the end of a section is and double check that. It helps a lot that I'm already familiar with the sound of the song. Okay, so at this point, I think I accurately have mapped out the beats. This is just so useful because it means that I can skip around throughout the song. I can see how many bars are in each section. And I know that my bar numbers are going to match up with my sheet music. And the bar number thing may not matter as much for a lot of people. For me, I often am doing this process with a song that I'm arranging strings for a recording session. And with that, it just saves so much time if we know that we can start at bar 33, and that's the same in the sheet music as it is in the DAW. So now let's look at our sheet music. So this is the second step. Now, as I was going, I was starting to recognize where there was repetition and where there were these different sections. So I kind of did our second step concurrently with the first step. I was mapping out the beats and I was also labeling sections in the form. But I'm going to listen through again, and I'm going to make these same sections in my sheet music and make sure that they match. So here's my sheet music template. Now this is a template that I use if I'm making a string quartet arrangement, and it should work fine for this. The Beatles. Okay, so I'm going to put us into panorama view, which is nice. And already I want to double check. Okay, bar number one, that's the same. Great. So here is where our A is going to start. And I'm going to create a marker for that. You can see how much all of this is just sort of, it's like doing clerical work at the beginning of my process, so that things are organized and it'll save me time down the road. Okay, so that A section was 6 bars. We have another A at 11. And I'm just using A, B, C as a shorthand for now for the form. You know, song form is really about where sections are being repeated. And a lot of times with modern pop songs, it's very predictable that it's like a certain, you know, a verse, chorus, and a bridge in a certain order. Beatles songs from this era don't always follow that exact setup. So for now, I'm just going to call these A and B sections instead of worrying about calling them verse, bridge, etc. Okay, cool. So this is so helpful to me because now I can see where all the repetition happens in this form. And that means that basically I'm going to want to double check my work on this, but most likely I only need to transcribe one A section, one B section, including this little 4-bar thing here. And then there might be something different in the solo section or this little thing heading into the end, but I think that those are also repeated chord changes. So instead of, you know, let's see, how many bars is this total? It's like 75 bars that we have to deal with. I've cut that down to basically 6 bars that I need to transcribe plus another 10 bars that I need. So 16 bars that I need to transcribe in total instead of 75. And there is a little bit of a prerequisite skill there, which is just the ability to recognize the repetition in the song, like recognizing these repeated sections of the song form. And that definitely takes some practice. But once you get good at doing that, and especially with modern pop songs, that tends to be actually pretty easy. You can save yourself so much time if you're transcribing a piece of music by recognizing those sections and getting it all mapped out in your DAW and your sheet music ahead of time. And I imagine some people watching this video might be jazz students who are wanting to transcribe jazz solos more efficiently. That was something I did a lot when I was learning jazz. And this would totally apply to jazz too, because most jazz solos are just taking place over a repeated 32-bar song form, which in itself has a lot of repetition. It's often an AABA form. So if you can get that all set up for a jazz transcription, it's also going to save you a lot of time, just as it would in pop music. All right, so now we get into the ear training part. And as I said, I'm focused on the tools in this video. I'm not focused on the actual ear training. I've done other videos where I explain how you could try to identify the chord changes in a song like this. So I'm just going to try to move quickly and accurately and do my transcription of Michelle. And hopefully this will be a demonstration of how well this works getting to use the repetition in the song. So we're starting with the intro here. Oh, and I got to make sure my... It sounds like that line cliche over an F minor chord. It definitely ends on a C chord. So we'll just start with that, F minor and C. And then maybe, is that a B flat minor here? No, it's still, so all of this is like F minor with a raised seventh. This is all classic stuff to do over a minor chord. F minor 6, F minor flat 6, and then a C chord. All right, so that's our introduction. Minor major 7. And let's check out the A section. This is kind of a cool song. I didn't pick the easiest song to do this with necessarily, but I was curious to play this song. Okay, major. Bar 6 is B flat minor 7. My bell, these are ba. So that's kind of a 2-5 here. Some words that go together well, my Michelle. My Michelle. It does a little 7 diminished 7 to 1 if we're calling C the 1. Okay, so I may or may not fast forward through some of that, but basically, I just transcribed those 6 measures, and now I have almost the entire tune, right? Because I can just copy this here. I can copy this here. I can copy this. I can, as an experiment, copy it over the C section, and we'll see if it's the same. I can copy it here, right? And I want to double check my work, but probably that part of this process is done, and I just need to get the B section now. So let's listen. Michelle, ma belle, Sunday mots qui vont très bien ensemble, très bien ensemble. I love you, I love you, I love you. That's all I want. So now we have a new section. So let's focus on the B section. And again, this is where, like if you were transcribing a jazz solo, and there were a really tricky part of the solo happening right at the beginning of the bridge of the song, having things mapped out in your dot is so helpful because you can just jump right there with your playhead. And like when I was learning to transcribe jazz solos growing up, I would do it all on my iPod. I had an old iPod, and I would like move the little playhead slider over, and it would often be like 30 seconds back. And that was so frustrating because I had to sit there and wait for the spot I was listening for to come around again. It was actually probably really good for my ear and my musical memory, but this is a much faster process. So I'm glad to have it at my disposal. Love you. Okay, so I think that's still F minor there. Love you, I love you, I love you. Maybe F minor 7. That's all I want to say. Sounds like it goes 5 to 1 in D flat. Is it maybe C here? Let's see. That's all I want to say. Until I find a way, I will say. Boom, boom. Okay, cool. Now, I should be honest. I do not think that I would be doing this well with this kind of harmony if I hadn't been hearing this song my entire life. And I probably have played this song before at some point from like some Beatles real book. So these are kind of tricky chord changes. Okay. Say the only words I know that you and then here we actually have a repetition of the intro. Boom. That's what that little thing is at the end of the B. It's the same as the intro. I missed that the first time. So I think that we have everything now. I think that we have now transcribed the entire song. You can see how, even in a harmonically complex Beatles song like this, I actually wouldn't have thought from just having listened to this song my whole life that there was so much repetition in this song. There's really only 3 sections in the song. There's that 4-bar intro, there's a 6-bar A section, and there's a 6-bar B section. And so having this process where I started by getting the beats mapped, and then I had the form all mapped out, made this go way, way faster than it would have if I had just been going off of Spotify, and gradually putting these things in one at a time. And obviously the ear training part of this is kind of the most consequential part of it. And there are a lot of amazing musicians who just learn everything by ear this way and are recognizing all of the repetition without the help of a written reference. I probably rely more on sheet music than most professional musicians because I'm so often working with sheet music when I create string arrangements. Take whatever here is useful to you. I think everyone finds their own process for speeding up things like this the more that you do them. And with that, don't forget to subscribe. It helps me out on YouTube. And of course, if you're serious about piano and you're wanting to learn more from me, you can check out one of my online courses. I'm Ted with Piano Fluency, and thanks for watching.